clearly scored a 0 on her college entrance exam. Yet she stood at the gates of a prestigious university and took an enrollment photo with her parents. To keep that one lie alive, she had no choice but to stick around campus, blending in with the other students.
외국에 있었어요. 진짜? 미국이요. 아버지가 거기서 사업.
Little did anyone know she grew up in extreme poverty. Her father was just a tailor, and her mother was mute. But the arrival of a foreign couple completely changed the rest of her life.
Do you know how to play the piano?
Young Yumi picked up the piano stickers and placed them on the table, pretending to play.
Do you want me to teach you to play real piano?
The wife took a liking to the intelligent Yumi and decided to take her home to raise and educate her properly. It didn't take long for her to discover Yumi's extraordinary talent. Unfamiliar English words, Yumi could memorize perfectly after hearing them just once. This talent made the wife grow fonder and fonder of Yumi. She then pulled Yumi to the poker table to teach her a vital lesson. Even if you hold a winning hand, you must keep a poker face, meaning your expression stays completely unchanged, so no one can guess what you're thinking.
Why?
And win only when your opponent doesn't know what your cards are. It's not just the poker. Make sure you keep others from reading your mind.
These words were deeply etched into Yumi's heart from that day on. 2 years passed. The couple prepared to return to their home country. Before leaving, they sold their used piano to Yumi's family at an inflated price. Everyone around thought this was extremely unethical, but Yumi's honest father believed this was well-deserved compensation for 2 years of caring for his daughter. As she left, the foreign wife told Yumi, who was standing outside the car, "Never forget your blank poker face." After this, Yumi's parents noticed she had started to become independent. She no longer needed to be fed. She had more thoughts and desires in her heart. Her mother didn't see anything wrong with this.
우리가 가진 게 없잖아.
Her father's face was filled with worry. His wife comforted him with hand gestures, signing that their daughter would handle things on her own. When Yumi entered elementary school, she had to quit ballet class because her family couldn't afford it.
또 하고 싶다고 하지 않았어? 너 잘하잖아. 계속해.
To save face, Yumi said dancing was just a hobby.
그냥 취미란 건데? 지금 그만두면 그 소문이 진짜가 되잖아.
It turned out people had been talking about her family behind her back long before this. Her father was a poor tailor, her mother couldn't speak, and their family was destitute. When she found out people were deliberately spreading her family's hardships, Yumi was filled with rage. She went home, cried, and begged her father to let her take ballet classes for 2 more months, saying if she could just hold on until the fall competition ended, she would stop taking classes.
이번 한 번만 진짜.
근데 의상비랑 안무비랑
Even though the high tuition fees turned her father's hair white with worry, she refused to give up because she knew deep down, if she gave up, more and more classmates would mock her family for being poor.
나 그냥 한 번만 나가게 해줘, 아빠.
Seeing her cry so heartbrokenly, her father finally agreed to her request. At the fall competition, after Yumi won the championship, she deliberately mocked the classmate who had badmouthed her using sign language.
뭐를 제일 웃기.
Time flew by and Yumi entered high school. Yumi had outstanding grades in liberal arts, yet she chose to major in art. But seeing Yumi's confident demeanor, her teacher finally agreed. But at school, the art teacher saw right through her paintings that they held no soul, only vanity. The teacher urged her to give up art, but Yumi refused.
쌤, 저는요. 내가 마음먹은 걸 다 해요.
She started a romantic relationship with the school's music teacher. She thought it was true love, only for them to be caught red-handed by the academic affairs office. That music teacher was a man with no sense of responsibility. To keep his job, he shifted all the blame onto the female student, claiming Yumi had seduced him.
유미가 먼저 저한테 접근했어요. 거절했어야 되는데 죄송합니다.
그런 거 아니잖아요. 선생님 왜 거짓말하세요?
In the end, Yumi was forced to transfer schools. Before she left, her heart was filled with injustice and hatred.
그 새끼는 왜 안 잘리고 정직이야? 내가 왜 이 새벽에 도망을 가냐고!
After that, Yumi moved to a new school in Seoul. But when Yumi went to complete her enrollment procedures, the teacher refused to accept a student who had been forcibly transferred from another school. For her future, her father humbled himself and begged the teacher repeatedly. Left with no choice, the teacher warned Yumi not to make any more mistakes.
너는 친구 사귀려고 하지 말고 그냥 조용히 공부만 해. 알겠니?
네.
After the enrollment was completed, her father found a boarding house for Yumi. He left her living expenses and hurried away. Yumi was filled with guilt. She apologized and said goodbye to her father using sign language. But when class started, Yumi just stared out the window in a daze, with no desire to study at all. All the students around her buried their heads in their studies. Only she snuck out of class halfway through and wandered the streets. In that moment, Yumi, alone in a strange city, was overwhelmed with loneliness. She could only call her mother for comfort.
엄마 목소리 듣고 싶다.
The outcome was no surprise. Yumi failed her mock exams outright. Not long after, she completely failed the National College Entrance Exam. Right at that moment, her unsuspecting father called to ask about her results. Listening to her father's hopeful words on the other end of the line, Yumi scraped her fingernails anxiously across the tabletop, her eyes darting back and forth. In the very next second, she lied to her father.
학교 합격했어.
우리 딸 유미 엄마 유미 합격했대.
To cover up this lie, Yumi deliberately showed up at the school gate on the day of the entrance ceremony, where she met her parents.
아빠 입학식 끝났어.
우리가 너무 늦게 왔지. 오다가 엄마가 멀미를 해서 늦었어. 아, 이 학교를 구경하고 싶었는데.
별거 없어. 나중에 해.
With that, she stopped a passerby and asked them to take an enrollment commemorative photo of the family in front of the school gate. Her unsuspecting father was over the moon. He even brought a gift and humbly thanked the landlady for taking care of his daughter. But the second he left, Yumi used the college tuition money her father gave her to sign up for a cram school. In the days that followed, whenever she grew tired of studying, she would look at the photo taken in front of the university gate and instantly feel a surge of motivation. Jaewin, a university student who shared the boarding house with Yumi, mistakenly thought Yumi was also a freshman. Yumi panicked inside and forced herself to hide the fact that she was still in cram school. Jaewin warmly invited her to join the school journal club, but Yumi didn't dare accept. She made an excuse about not being interested and hurried away. On the way to school the next day, Jaewin made sure to get Yumi's phone number before leaving. Watching the lively freshman atmosphere on the university campus, Yumi's eyes were filled with envy. So when she received an invitation text from Jaewin, she involuntarily went to the editorial office to save face. She even lied that she was an international student returning from America. Jaewin believed her lie and immediately gave her a uniform for the Yiheon school journal. Yumi wore it while lying on her bed reviewing her lessons, as if she had truly become a university student. The two spent more and more time together after that. Yumi's desk was soon piled high with cosmetics. She focused all her energy on her appearance. When she ran out of money, she lied to her family about needing to pay club fees to ask for more money.
죄송해요. 이제 안 빠져요.
The crisis came quickly. During the cram school exam, Yumi's answer sheet was collected before she could finish filling it in. After failing the exam, faced with Jaewin's club invitation, she accepted without hesitation. She even went on stage and confidently introduced herself as a freshman. The beautiful Yumi was extremely popular among the boys. She was soon asked out by a boy to go shopping. The two then kissed and started a relationship. Not long after, her cram school teacher called.
야, 성적표 받으러 학교 안 오니?
몇 점이에요?
작년보다 점수는 더 못한데.
Yumi stared at the table full of cosmetics. She knew she had no money to retake the cram school course, so she hung up the phone directly. She then saw her roommate posting about her European vacation, then looked at her own messy room, her heart filled with helplessness. A year passed in the blink of an eye. Her boyfriend was going to study abroad in New York and invited Yumi to go with him.
넌 내년에 미국에서 왕년서 하고 안 그래도 엄마가 졸업하고 바로 결혼해서 같이 유학 가는 거 어떠냐고. 너 한번 보고 싶다고 하시던.
Over the next few days, Yumi thought about this nonstop while at cram school, so she asked her parents for money again, lying that she had been selected as an outstanding student and needed to self-fund a one-year exchange program in America.
그럼 장학금 받는 거야?
아니, 그건 아니고 이런 기회가 다시 없을 것 같아서.
In the end, she got the money and headed to the airport with her boyfriend. Her boyfriend's mother came to see them off in person.
네가 같이 간다니까 내가 얼마나 마음이 좀
But while the two were waiting for their flight at the airport, her boyfriend got a call from his mother when he went to buy coffee.
뭐라는 거야, 촘촘거려.
유미, 얘 가짜야, 가짜. 그런 학생이 그 학교에 없대. 없다고. 아직 비행기 안 타고지? 엄마 지금 고백 다시 왔어.
When a poor girl was cleaning for a wealthy household, she was drawn to a pair of luxury red high heels on the floor, so she secretly tried them on. Her long repressed vanity was instantly satisfied. This even made her want to take the place of the owner of the shoes. Not long ago, Yumi had her fake identity of a top university student exposed by her boyfriend. Her boyfriend left her behind and went abroad alone. Yumi left the airport in embarrassment, dragging her luggage. Yet more misfortunes were waiting for her ahead. She just woke up when she received another devastating news. Her father had passed away in the early morning, so she rushed back to her hometown immediately. The moment she saw the portrait of her late father, she could no longer hold back her tears. It turned out her father had worked himself to the bone to fund her study abroad, which had caused him to develop cancer long before. But to avoid ruining the future of his daughter, he insisted on not going to the hospital for treatment. After Yumi finished arranging the funeral of her father, she decided to sell the tailor shop that her father cherished more than anything. While sorting through the belongings of her late father, she was shocked to discover, to fund her education, the family had long been drowned in debt. Sure enough, the creditors came to the door right away to demand repayment.
저번 달에 이거 해야 되나?
With no other choice, Yumi settled her mother who suffered from dementia and decided to go back to Seoul alone to make money. Back in Seoul again, Yumi fell completely to the bottom of the society. She was determined to turn her life around by passing the civil service exam. But she did not even have enough money for cram school tuition, so she had to work multiple part-time jobs day and night. She worked as a receptionist at a parking lot during the day and worked around the charcoal grill at a barbecue restaurant all night. She collapsed straight into bed after work every single day. To make it to work on time, Yumi could only eat a steamed bun during her work break when she was hungry. While working at the barbecue restaurant, she watched people of her age chatting and laughing in glamorous outfits. She could only keep her head down and work non-stop cleaning. Until one day, she was harassed by a drunk man at a convenience store. His words mocking her as a penniless loser made Yumi lose all her self-respect. Right at that moment, Yumi accidentally came across a job posting online, which became the turning point of her entire life. A high-end furniture gallery called Mireille was hiring a maid. To survive, she immediately got on a bus to go for the interview, but she never expected the workplace was actually on the top of a mountain. Wearing high heels, Yumi could only grit her teeth and climb the steep slope step by step with great difficulty. On the other side, Hyunju, the wealthy heiress, rode in a luxury car and arrived at the top of the mountain effortlessly. As it turned out, this Hyunju was exactly the daughter of the owner of the place where Yumi was having her interview. She was the one who interviewed all the maid candidates. Yumi waited anxiously in the room, but Hyunju was on a phone call and completely ignored her as if she was thin air. The inherent sense of superiority from her stabbed Yumi right in the heart in an instant.
아 맞다. 나 기다렸잖아.
Luckily, Yumi passed the interview successfully. Here, Yumi was nothing but a servant who did all the chores and even hand-washed the underwear of Hyunju. Later, the owner of the house saw the resume of Yumi and could not help mocking her.
거절이네.
The face of the owner was filled with contempt and said outright that he only let it go for the sake of his daughter Hyunju. In this wealthy circle, even a random chair on the floor was worth tens of millions of Korean won. Yumi silently memorized the brands and prices of all these furniture pieces. When no one was watching, she secretly sat on the expensive sofa to feel it for a moment. The wife of the owner prayed silently every time she invited friends over for dinner. Then she would hint to Yumi to hold an exquisite and luxury handbag as a gift for those friends. All the efforts the madam put in were only in the hope that these friends could help her find a son-in-law who was a doctor.
그렇게 소원이면 의사 사위 말고 의사를 키우시지 그랬어요.
엄마 그렇게 힘든 거를 내 자식한테 어떻게 시켜요?
그래, 의사 변호사는 만드는 게 아니라 쓰는 거였어.
Yumi stood aside listening to all these words and felt nothing but extreme irony. Hyunju, who had just come back from the US, bought handbags as casually as if she was buying groceries. She even gave Yumi her leftover unwanted lipsticks like she was doing charity. But when Yumi turned them down, Hyunju said in a condescending tone,
좀 이쁘게 좀 하고 다녀. 이거 다 좋은 거야.
Yumi could only take them obediently and thank her to pay for the insurance and medical treatment of her mother. Yumi started working here full-time. One day, Yumi the maid went to the mansion of Hyunju to pick up clothes. The moment she stepped through the door, she was filled with envy at all the luxury furniture in the house. Not to mention the stunning view outside. The floor-to-ceiling windows left her completely stunned. Later, when she walked into the walk-in closet to get the clothes, her gaze was immediately locked on a pair of luxury red high heels. When there was no one around, she could not resist the temptation and put on the high heels. Looking at her glamorous self in the mirror, her vanity was greatly satisfied in that moment. But the next second, reality hit her hard in the face, reminding her she was nothing but a maid serving a wealthy heiress. Right at that moment, Hyunju threw her a flirty glance. All that rose up in the heart of Yumi was injustice and disgust. Day after day, Yumi climbed the steep slope to go to work, but her salary could never add up to enough for her tuition. When she was tired, she could only collapse on the ground to catch her breath while taking out the trash. Soon, a year passed. She went to pick up documents and found Hyunju completely drunk. Hyunju told her to open the safe herself, and also told Yumi that the personal documents inside the safe could all be used by Yumi to apply for loans in her name.
신용카드 비번 알지? 공인인증서 왜?
The several diplomas from top universities casually discarded inside the safe door came into her view. These were the things she had been dreaming of her whole life, yet here they were worth nothing. Before she left, Hyunju casually gave her a luxury watch as a tip. To match this watch, Yumi bit the bullet and spent a huge sum of money on a designer scarf.
62만 1,000원 결제 도와드리겠습니다. 할부하시겠습니까? 아니요. 일시불이요.
At night, Yumi received a call from Hyunju, ordering her to come pick her up right away. But when she arrived at the destination, Hyunju was still chatting and laughing with her friends. Hyunju ordered a steak for Yumi in the corner of the high-end restaurant. On the way back, Hyunju said casually that she would rent out the shop after she got married. Yumi said she was worried about losing her job, only to be mocked by Hyunju, who said it was because her education level was too low. Right after that, she received a text from her mute mother back in her hometown hoping she would come home. Yumi asked her boss for leave the next day, only to be yelled at fiercely by her boss, who complained that she was lazy, stupid, and had a low education level. She could only go back to her workstation in frustration. On the other side, Hyunju was bored of this place and asked Yumi to book a plane ticket to Paris for her to travel, and whined about how pitiful she was with nothing to do. Yumi felt nothing but extreme irony listening to this. Staring at the passport on the table, a crazy idea popped up in her mind. Later, Hyunju planned to go out with a male friend and asked Yumi not to tell her mother about this. Looking at the expression on the face of Yumi, Hyunju thought she was worried about her.
모임에서 만났는데 심각한 사이 아니야?
저님 걱정을 하겠어요.
Hyunju was not angry at first, but when Yumi handed her the passport, she deliberately pushed the passport on the table onto the floor and yelled at Yumi for being insensitive. Yumi squatted down silently. When Yumi left, Hyunju even talked bad about her behind her back. While the employer family was out, all the maids gathered together for a meal. Everyone was complaining about the family. They sell fake goods while looking down on people with low education. Yumi stayed silent, picked up the red wine on the table and drank it all in one gulp.
그 소리를 듣고 하루 종일 생각해봤는데
저번에도 누나 고졸이라고 막 인신공격하고.
배우신 분들은 남 때문 시장에서 떼어 물건 말 조심해.
The housekeeper thought it was normal. Late at night, Yumi stared at the Christmas tree. She finally made up her mind to get revenge on Hyunju. She left with the passport, clothes, and bags of Hyunju, and finally caught the last bus back to her hometown. The next day, she stayed by the side of her mother. When her mother went to make breakfast, she looked at the 22 missed calls from the housekeeper on her phone. Yumi blocked all of them without hesitation when she suddenly saw the phone number of her senior Jaewon. So an idea popped up in her mind. She then asked Jaewon out to meet for a meal. When they met again, Jaewon thought she had just come back from the US and was amazed that she had become so calm that she could barely recognize her. After learning that Yumi was looking for a job, Jaewon immediately recommended a job at an art academy.
고마운 게, 그 유학미술하는 93학번 언니가 있는데 학원이 되게 커 유명하고 너 학위가 미대라며.
Back home, Yumi forged her academic credentials and picked up the passport and diplomas of Hyunju from the trash can. Looking at all these items, a brand new and bold plan fully took shape in her mind. At this moment, she decided to completely abandon her past and rewrite her life with the identity of Hyunju. She never even passed her college entrance exams, yet she became a university professor and successfully married an ultra-wealthy tycoon. Just a short while before she was an unemployed nobody, she ran into a former coworker who worked with her as a maid in a wealthy household and accidentally learned a critical piece of information. The wealthy heiress Hyunju had flown to the US with her husband. This was Yumi's perfect chance to impersonate the wealthy heiress Hyunju. Yumi made up her mind and immediately took on Hyunju's American name Anna, then boldly used Anna's stolen Yale diploma to apply for a lecturer position at a cram school.
학벌이 너무 좋은데?
With her outstanding resume, along with a recommendation from her friend, Director Park did not hesitate long and decided to hire her on the spot. After that, Yumi returned the second-hand designer bags and clothes she had rented. The moment she thought about how much it would cost to keep up her wealthy heiress persona, Yumi pulled out the luxury watch Hyunju had given her years before. But to her shock, the store clerk recognized it was a fake the second they picked it up. They also told Yumi if she had received it recently. The person who gave it to her absolutely knew it was a counterfeit all along. In that moment, Yumi's dignity was crushed once again. After returning to her cramped bedroom, Yumi received a notice from her household registration office that her name change application had been approved to take over Hyunju's identity. She had already made every possible preparation, and now she had even changed her name to Anna to avoid blowing her cover during classes. Yumi began studying the course material obsessively. She used the excuse of consulting about study abroad programs for her younger sister to sit in on free trial classes at various institutions. She memorized every single thing she heard, then repeated it word for word to her own cram school students. When she heard her student Neri complain that she could never outperform her classmates and stubbornly insist that her classmate only got ahead through luck, she suddenly thought of her former helpless and destitute self. So she told Neri, "People only fixate on other people's lives when they are unhappy. I once let other people make my life miserable too, but now I only wait for opportunities, not luck. Don't care about what other people think. Only focus on yourself." This was exactly what she truly believed in that moment. She stopped complaining about her fate and blaming others, and instead actively seized every chance to move up in the world. One day, she suddenly received good news from her family. Her father's tailor shop was going to be demolished for redevelopment, and she would receive a substantial compensation payout. In a great mood, Yumi asked her college senior G1 out for dinner. To thank her for the recommendation, she casually handed her an expensive gift.
얘 미쳤어. 너 월급이 얼만데 이걸 줘. 처음 받아봐.
별거 아니에요.
At this moment, G1 suddenly brought up that she heard from Director Park that she had two names. Yumi lied without even changing her expression.
아, 미국에서 쓰던 이름인데 국적 정리하면서 하기 때문에.
However, the crisis came very quickly. One day, Director Park brought a Real Yale alum Professor Yoon So-young for a visit.
모르나? 자기 선배인데.
In that moment, Yumi forced herself to stay calm, while her mind was racing with panic. If the professor asked even one casual question about the school, her fake identity as Anna would be exposed immediately. Yumi quickly made an excuse that she had a class to teach, and fled the scene where her identity could be exposed at any moment. Hiding behind the door, she overheard the professor complaining to the director. The professor had heard that Anna came from an extremely wealthy family, but was also incredibly arrogant and loved to party. But the director was confused. If Anna was such a party animal back in school, and came from a wealthy family, then why was the Anna in front of him working so diligently at the academy to keep up her wealthy heiress persona? Yumi had to reinvent herself completely from head to toe. She went to the wholesale market to hunt for fake designer goods. But at that moment, she got an excited call from her student saying she had been accepted to Yale.
저 예일 됐어요. 오늘 방금 이메일 받았어요.
She felt not a single bit of happiness for her student. Instead, a wave of intense panic washed over her. Ironically, more and more students came to her for tutoring. She relied entirely on secondhand knowledge she had scrounged from everywhere, and somehow managed to win the full trust of these students. They even thought everything their teacher said made perfect sense. After making money, Yumi took a taxi directly from Seoul to her hometown. But a neighbor aunt told her her mother's dementia had gotten significantly worse. Took her half an hour to even recognize Yumi. The aunt handed her the demolition compensation documents for the tailor shop. Yumi signed the documents without a single moment of hesitation. Yumi took her mother to buy new clothes and eat grilled pork belly. Looking at the grill worker covered in charcoal dust, she instantly thought of her own former humble self. At that moment, she ran into a middle school classmate who looked at her designer outfit with obvious envy and thought she had become a glamorous, successful person in Seoul. Looking at her classmate's dejected back as she cleared the table, Yumi felt like she was looking at her past self in the mirror. But now she had already become a teacher deeply loved by her students. Not long after that, Yale alum suddenly asked Yumi to meet and unexpectedly recommended her for a university professor position. The woman told her bluntly that she was helping her because of her wealthy and powerful family background and wanted to use this to build connections with her circle. Seizing this opportunity, Yumi used the demolition compensation from her hometown and rented a luxury apartment with a partial view of Jainbakgung Palace.
전세 잘 없는데 운이 좋으십니다.
Moving into the empty apartment, she stared at the view outside the window, knowing full well this was the price of admission to high society she had to pay. Even though Yumi was very grateful to her senior G1, G1's life after graduation had fallen apart completely. She complained all day about being exploited by her company, with no connections and no energy to fight anymore. Drunk, she finally whispered in admission.
예전부터 너 좀 부러웠거든. 하고 다니는 것도 들고 입는 것도 다 너무 예쁘고 아니 돈 걱정 안 하고 훌쩍 유학 가버리는 게 진짜 별로 부러웠다.
After dropping the drunk G1 off at home, Yumi found out she was living in a damp, dark basement. It turned out G1 was still paying off the massive debt her father had racked up from stock trading 5 years prior. She worked herself to the bone but still could not pay it off. Listening to her seniors break down and looking at the piles of messy old things filling the room, along with that painfully glaring prestigious university graduation photo on the wall, the thought in Yumi's mind grew even stronger. Without power and status, a diploma is nothing but a worthless piece of paper. Very soon, the alum introduced Yumi to the college's president. Looking at the young and beautiful Yumi, the president was certain she would attract a lot of new students. And so the college entrance exam failure Yumi transformed into university professor Anna.
안녕하세요. 명작 보기와 읽기를 한 학기 동안 강의할 이안나라고 합니다. 잘 부탁드립니다.
To avoid exposing her true identity, she stayed up late every night cramming the course material to maintain her connections. When the alum stared at a bag but could not bring herself to buy it,
선물해도 돼요?
진짜?
Yumi generously bought the bag for the alum, and just like that, Yumi taught at the college smoothly for 2 years. Her teaching style was humorous and engaging, and the students all loved her very much. One day at lunch, Professor Kim told Yumi he wanted to introduce her to someone from high society, and guaranteed she would not regret it. That night, Yumi looked up the man's background, and found out he was none other than the rising star of the IT industry, Choi Ji-hoon, CEO of Solid. This was a truly powerful man. The two met very soon. Yumi knew he was only interested in Anna's prominent family background, and wanted to climb the social ladder through marriage. Then Choi Ji-hoon gave Yumi a test. He pointed at the furniture in the company lobby, and asked Yumi to judge his taste. Little did he know Yumi, who had worked as a maid in a wealthy household, could spot a fake instantly.
왜 모두
그거 어떻게 알았어요?
각오를 좀 알아요?
After Yumi called him out on it, he instead thought Yumi had an incredibly sharp eye, and grew even more fond of her. But Yumi deliberately kept her distance, saying she was in no hurry to get married. Choi Ji-hoon used 3 dates to win Yumi's heart. Meanwhile, G1 gave Yumi a bottle of cheap perfume, and Yumi did not mind it at all. She instead asked G1, who worked in the media, to look into Choi Ji-hoon's background. She found out the man had once been insecure about his education, and later took high-end courses to polish his credentials, and built his career from nothing through stock trading. After confirming he was a man with great prospects, Yumi no longer hesitated. The two's relationship heated up quickly. Before the wedding, Yumi visited her mother at the nursing home, and told her mother she was getting married soon.
나 결혼해.
Yumi was about to become a true high society lady through marriage. To marry into a wealthy family, she hired a fake couple to pose as her parents, and forged herself into a rich heiress. She thought no one would ever find out. Little did she know that the real heiress she was impersonating actually lived right above her apartment.
맞지? 유미.
Not long ago, she hired the fake parents, and confidently discussed the wedding with her boyfriend Choi Ji-hoon's father. At the meeting between both families, after Choi Ji-hoon and his family left, Yumi walked up to her hired parents, and repeatedly instructed them to be sent to the airport immediately after the wedding to pretend to go abroad. Even if it was just a formality, she needed people to believe they were overseas returnees, to completely eliminate the risk of the truth being exposed. If the two sets of parents ever met again, she then handed them a sum of money, telling them to spend more on their clothes and hairstyles for the wedding day. When the fake mother asked if she had done anything wrong, Yumi directly pointed out their flaw.
엄연지를 판단할 때 머릿결과 구두를 보거든요.
A few days later, Yumi and Choi Ji-hoon held a grand and luxurious wedding. Her friend G1 in the audience watched with envy, exclaiming how extravagant rich people's weddings are. And the once tacky nouveau riche Choi Ji-hoon now looked surprisingly young and handsome with his wealth. Some guests even noticed many political bigwigs in attendance, which further convinced G1 of the rumors that Choi Ji-hoon was going into politics. The fake parents, whom Yumi had criticized for not looking rich enough, appeared in fashionable outfits today, and were immediately praised by everyone as looking like wealthy people. G1 quickly went up to talk to them, saying she was Yumi's college senior. This almost exposed Anna.
누구요?
안나요. 안나 대학교 선배.
Upon hearing the name Anna, the fake parents finally realized she was the bride's senior. When taking group photos, the groom's father suddenly brought over a little boy. Yumi looked at the boy's features, which were strikingly similar to her husband's, and felt something was wrong. She asked who the boy was. Her husband explained he was his nephew. Yumi did not think much more about it. The shutter clicked, and the moment was frozen. Under the name Anna, Yumi successfully married into the wealthy family, and completely stepped into the upper class she could never reach before. Back home, the maid looked at the exquisite wedding photos and praised how beautiful they were, asking where to hang them. Yumi, however, told her to throw them directly into the warehouse.
요즘 누가 촌스럽게 집에 이런 걸 걸어요.
The maid behind her couldn't help but doubt their relationship. During their married life, Choi Ji-hoon took Yumi with him every time he had business dinners to meet those political bigwigs. When one bigwig complained that Choi Ji-hoon rarely visited him, Yumi beside him immediately skillfully diffused the awkwardness, smiling and saying it was she who had stopped him from coming for fear of causing trouble, which made her husband look very good. Then Choi Ji-hoon left on the pretext of answering a phone call, leaving the two alone. When the bigwig couldn't remember the name of the pizza shop next to Yale University, Yumi, who had never been abroad, had already done her homework thoroughly.
프랭크 페페요?
예, 맞아. 페페. 예. 공원단에 있었니?
네. 우스터 스퀘어 앞에 있어요.
She acted just like an overseas returnee who had grown up abroad. Now Yumi had started attending Yale alumni banquets without any scruples. Ironically, the real Anna never attended these boring gatherings, so these alumni never had a chance to see through Yumi's impersonation. Even though she had very poor artistic talent, Yumi dared to teach art students as a professor, looking at the admiring eyes of everyone. She had long forgotten she was an imposter. Even after entering the wealthy family, Yumi still often met Ji-won for meals. Ji-won looked at the bill and sighed that a random meal here cost half her monthly salary. To win public favor, Choi Ji-hoon took Yumi to the school to participate in a charity event giving scholarships to disabled students. At the scene, there was a deaf-mute little girl who was too anxious to go on stage because her mother wouldn't answer the phone and there was no interpreter. At the critical moment, Yumi, who knew sign language, stepped forward voluntarily to act as the interpreter. This warm and approachable scene instantly made everyone think highly of her and also greatly boosted Choi Ji-hoon's popularity. Just when Yumi thought she had firmly secured her position as a wealthy wife, a real crisis quietly arrived. She was admiring her new high heels on her way home when she ran head-on into the real heiress Anna, who had just returned from the United States.
24층. 문이 닫힙니다.
Now Yumi was dressed in designer clothes and had a completely different temperament. Hyunju didn't recognize her at first as the former maid in her house. The fake heiress Yumi was so scared that she lowered her head and said nothing, afraid of the truth being discovered. But finally Hyunju recognized her.
맞지, 유미? 맞네, 유미.
Yumi dared not respond and could only lower her head even further. Hyunju looked her up and down, only thinking that she had become rich and didn't think much else until the elevator doors closed. Yumi, who walked out, collapsed directly to the ground, her legs giving way. She never expected the other person to live right above her. But soon another accident happened. That day, Yumi's friend Ji-won went to a company for an interview as a reporter, only to find the interviewee was her college senior, Jae-ho, who was Yumi's ex-boyfriend who had discovered she was pretending to be a college student and cruelly abandoned her at the airport. The two met and started talking about the past. On the other hand, since running into the real heiress Anna at the elevator entrance, Yumi had been feeling uneasy, afraid her fake identity would be exposed. Her husband Choi Ji-hoon was giving an excited campaign speech on stage, while she sat below expressionless and distracted. During dinner, Choi Ji-hoon also noticed her abnormality. Not only that, when Yumi dragged her tired body home, she ran into Hyunju again in the parking lot. Hyunju turned around and joked if she had won the lottery to be driving such a nice car. Yumi looked at her with extreme fear in her heart. To find out the situation, she immediately called her former colleague, who had worked as a maid with her at Hyunju's house. After asking, she found out that the real Anna's life was not going well. Her father had died and her family had gone bankrupt. She even had to sell the building to pay off debts. She had returned to Korea this time to get a divorce. The former colleague was certain that Hyunju, who was used to the life of a rich girl, would never be able to stand being poor, but was not sure if she would stay in Korea or go back to the United States.
교수님, 7시 넘었는데 안 들어가세요? 무슨 생각을 그렇게 하세요?
Since discovering Hyunju lived above her, she had been afraid to go home early, so she went to Ji-won's house to consolidate her position. Yumi started helping Ji-won. She knew that although Ji-won had a sense of justice, she also craved opportunities, so she talked to her husband and asked him to poach Ji-won to the political department of a major newspaper. Choi Ji-hoon agreed to help, but on the condition that Yumi must get along well with those congressmen's wives. Even though Yumi said she couldn't get along with those people, he still forcefully demanded that she adapt. After all, these congressmen's wives could leak all kinds of information, and what was even more terrifying, as his status improved, her husband finally revealed his violent nature. He beat the driver severely just because he was late due to a traffic accident. He humiliated the driver in every possible way in the empty garage. Yumi just tried to stop him when she was pushed away roughly. Then he grabbed the driver by the collar and kneed him hard in the stomach. This scene terrified Yumi. Even though the driver stood up and apologized, Choi Ji-hoon still fired him without mercy and even drove away directly, leaving Yumi behind who hadn't gotten in the car. Soon, through Yumi's efforts, Ji-won received an offer from the political department of the major newspaper. Looking at the offer from the company she had always wanted to work for, she hesitated. On the other hand, that student who had listened to Yumi's secondhand knowledge, specially brought back from the United States, the donuts next to Yale University that Yumi had casually mentioned as her favorite. Looking at all this falsehood, Yumi's heart was filled with unease. She sat in the car, afraid to get out and go home, when when she finally summoned up the courage. She found the elevator was coming down from the 24th floor, which was exactly the floor where the real heiress Anna lived. To avoid meeting her, she went to the stairwell and chose to climb the stairs back to her home on the 23rd floor. From that day on, to avoid the real Anna, she chose to take the stairs home every day, even though she was already exhausted by the 10th floor. Thinking about the consequences of her fake identity being exposed, she still gritted her teeth and persisted. She was radiant in front of everyone during the day, but at night when she got home, she had to climb the stairs breathlessly. When her feet became sore and painful, she took off her shoes and continued climbing barefoot. She persisted like this for a whole month, but this day she finally climbed to the 23rd floor and came out of the stairwell breathless, only to run head-on into the real Anna, who had come to find her specifically. The other person saw through at a glance that Yumi had been climbing the stairs to the 23rd floor every day just to avoid her.
유미, 이거 설명 좀 해줘야겠는데.
She was a maid who couldn't even get into college, yet she stole someone else's identity and became the mayor's wife. However, when the real heiress discovered her identity theft, she could only kneel and beg for mercy.
조금만 시간을 주세요.
Hyunju didn't buy it at all. Looking at the liar who had stolen her life, Hyunju would never let her off easily. Since you stole someone else's life, you have to pay the corresponding price. Then the heavily indebted Hyunju finally laid out her conditions. She told Yumi to come up with 3 billion won as hush money by next month. This astronomical figure directly stunned Yumi. Hyunju threatened, either pay the money or face criminal charges. After all, her identity and Yale degree are worth that much. Before leaving, Hyunju glanced at the wedding photo hanging by the door. Her tone was filled with naked threat.
네가 누군지.
After threatening Yumi, Hyunju left. To make matters worse, Yumi suddenly received a call from the basement, saying that Choi Ji-hoon had drunk too much and fallen asleep in the car. When she rushed to the parking lot and pulled open the car door, she found a woman lying next to her husband. Yumi didn't get angry. She closed the car door and called the police, reporting someone for drunk driving. The next day, Yumi acted as if nothing had happened, and tentatively asked her husband why the police came to the door early in the morning. But Choi Ji-hoon didn't address it at all. Instead, he directly told Yumi that he had established a scholarship foundation in her name, and specifically appointed her as the chairperson. Yumi was extremely reluctant when she heard this. This position, which was in the eye of public opinion, made her instinctively uncomfortable. But Choi Ji-hoon didn't care about her feelings at all.
이 나라는 약자한테는 매정하고 기득권한테는 인정이 넘친다고. 인터넷 좀 봐봐. 왜냐 우리는 숨 쉴 때도 의미가 생기고 평가를.
That's exactly why he desperately climbed to the top of the pyramid. Immediately afterwards, Choi Ji-hoon directly assigned a personal secretary, who would be responsible for his and her schedules from today on. And what made Yumi's spine chill the most was, the name of this new secretary was also Yumi. Yumi suspected that her husband might have found out the truth. She had just reported her husband for drunk driving yesterday, and today he deliberately found a secretary with the same name to warn her. But right now, the 3 billion won was the bigger problem. While she was worrying, an alumnus came to her door, saying that a small exhibition was short-staffed, and wanted to borrow her fame to sell paintings.
얼마나 줘요?
알면서 이걸 무슨 돈을 벌어. 자기는 막 돈 아쉽고 그런 사람 아니잖아.
The upset Yumi lay motionless on the sofa. At this moment, the maid suddenly asked for leave, saying her son was seriously ill and needed surgery. Yumi was already at her wit's end, and lost her temper immediately upon hearing this.
내가 왜? 아줌마 눈치까지 봐야 돼요. 내가 왜 그딴 것까지 신경 써야 돼요?
She vented all her anger on the maid like a mad woman. Then she turned around and saw Secretary Zhao standing nearby, and quickly composed herself. Secretary Zhao drove Yumi to the dinner party. On the way, Yumi chatted with Secretary Zhao, and learned that she had failed the civil service exam 5 times. But her parents insisted on telling others that she had passed. Yumi could relate to just a little lie for the sake of face. But the way of lying to people made the secretary feel very uncomfortable. Therefore, Yumi was certain that Secretary Zhao was an honest person who could be used. Upon arrival, Secretary Zhao thoughtfully reminded her to wait in the car for 20 minutes, and go in only after everyone had arrived. This scene instantly reminded Yumi of the past, when her employer Hyunju went on blind dates. She would deliberately drive around the neighborhood to show off, and wouldn't get out of the car until the other party had arrived. She never thought that now she herself had become someone who lived entirely for others' opinions.
들어가시죠. 다들 와 있습니다.
At this time, Hyunju had actually used the only building her family owned as collateral for stock trading. Her mother told her to get the collateral back as soon as possible. So that night, Hyunju drove to her villa that was about to be auctioned off by the court. Looking at the familiar place, she suddenly remembered Yumi, who had worked as a maid there, so she took out her phone and searched her own name, Liana, online. As a result, she found that all her personal information online had been completely replaced by her former maid Yumi. Furious, Hyunju immediately called Choi Ji-hoon, wanting to expose the imposter on the spot. But the call was answered by the secretary. Secretary Zhao didn't dare to neglect, and immediately reported Hyunju's shocking revelation to Choi Ji-hoon. The next second, Yumi was sitting in the car staring straight ahead. The moment she saw Hyunju appear, she slammed on the gas pedal and crashed into her from behind. But the car suddenly screeched to a halt. Yumi looked up in terror, only to see Hyunju looking at her with a mocking smile.
왜? 못하겠어?
And all of this was just a fantasy in her mind, driven to the brink. Ji-won's new colleagues at the company learned that she had gotten the job through Yumi's connections and immediately gossiped about whether she had any special relationship with Yumi. Ji-won quickly explained that she was just an ordinary college friend of Anna's and didn't know Choi Ji-hoon at all. Upon hearing that this new employee had no background, these veteran employees immediately changed their tune and started bullying her, even forcing Ji-won to stand up and call them Appa, calling it a newcomer welcome ceremony to keep her job. Ji-won could only grit her teeth and endure it. Before flying to the United States, Young-ho specifically asked Ji-won to meet. He took out a photo of Yumi and Choi Ji-hoon and asked. It turned out that during their last meeting, Ji-won had been afraid of awkwardness and hadn't dared to mention that she was still in touch with Yumi. Young-ho admitted that he probably wouldn't be coming back after going abroad this time. Yumi could do whatever she wanted. It had nothing to do with him anyway, but he was really afraid that Ji-won would suffer from being kept in the dark. So he told her the whole truth about why he had broken up with Yumi. After hearing this, Ji-won looked completely incredulous. When she got back, she immediately began quietly investigating Yumi's background. Pieces of memory started to come together. She suddenly remembered that back in college, Yumi had indeed sworn that she was going to study abroad in the US with her boyfriend and then get married. So Ji-won called her former university and started investigating Yumi's enrollment records from that year. It turned out that there were 7 freshmen named Lee Yumi in that decade, but none of them were in the art department. Undeterred, Ji-won went back to the dormitory building where she and Yumi had lived together. The landlady recognized her immediately and started complaining non-stop. Turned out that when Yumi moved out, she had left without paying the last 2 months' rent. The landlady looked regretful, saying that she too had been fooled by that seemingly innocent and kind face. Ji-won listened in disbelief. The landlady continued, "When I went into Yumi's room, it was a complete mess like a garbage dump. Old clothes were thrown everywhere." In the end, the landlady had no choice but to go to Yumi's hometown and only got the 2 months' rent and travel expenses back from her father. The landlady also revealed that Yumi's family was not well off at all. Her father was just an ordinary man who ran a suit shop in the countryside. He had even brought a melon to congratulate her back then. At this moment, Ji-won suddenly remembered that she had indeed met Yumi's family once before. Thanks to her identity as Choi Ji-hoon's wife, people often asked Yumi to meet, and among the gifts from those asking for favors were thick envelopes stuffed with cash. Later, she carried a bag of money back to the parking lot and handed it directly to Hyunju.
1억쯤 돼요. 내가 할 수 있는 최선이에요.
But Hyunju didn't think much of this small amount. She threw the bag back disdainfully and threatened.
아니면 그냥 남편한테 털어놓고 좀 달라고 해. 내가 연락해줄까? 나 인내심 없는 거 알지? 시간 약속 지켜.
With that, Hyunju left gracefully. Before leaving, she specifically turned around to add one more thing.
내 눈에 띄지 말고 계단으로 다녀. 계단.
Trapped by this deadly leverage, Yumi could only obey like a puppet and obediently walked toward the stairwell. As she was panting her way up to the 23rd floor, she suddenly thought of a way to raise the 3 billion won. The maid steals someone else's identity and pretends to be a rich heiress. She successfully enters the world of the upper class. Just when Yumi thinks her life is finally about to change, her friend secretly goes to the school where she works, planning to uncover her real identity. From Director Park, Jaewon learns that Yumi is an excellent teacher. Most of the students she teaches get accepted into famous schools, but one of Yumi's students reveals something strange. The teacher's English is actually pretty bad. This makes Jaewon wonder whether Yumi really studied in America, so she asks Director Park for proof of Yumi's education. Then she contacts Yale University to verify whether the documents are real. After receiving the school's reply, Jaewon carefully compares the 2 files. Unexpectedly, the 2 documents match perfectly. Jaewon still cannot understand why. Yumi never got into college back then, so how did she get this diploma? Filled with suspicion, Jaewon immediately heads to Yumi's hometown. After arriving, Jaewon follows the clues and finds an old restaurant. The owner has been running the place for 40 years. Jaewon quickly asks her for information. She asks whether the owner knows the daughter of the suit shop family named Yumi, but the owner says the suit shop daughter is not named Yumi. Her name is Anna. The truth is slowly becoming clearer. Jaewon then finds Yumi's elementary school teacher. After a few questions, Yumi's painful past is finally exposed, but at this moment, the company tells Jaewon to return and interview Choi Jae-hyun, so Jaewon has no choice but to go back. Meanwhile, Yumi stares at the computer screen. It is filled with names of people asking for favors. After counting them all, there are 45 people in total. Yumi thinks there is finally hope of raising 3 billion. Early the next morning, she calls them one by one and arranges meetings. After that, Yumi constantly moves between wealthy wives. Every time a meeting ends, she leaves immediately. The cash payments from these people keep piling up on the passenger seat of her car. Every time, Yumi puts the cash into her backpack. After storing the money away, she calmly heads home like nothing happened. At the same time, Hyunju and her mother arrive at the airport, waiting for Hyunju's husband to return to Korea and handle the divorce. Her mother keeps persuading Hyunju to try to save the marriage. Hyunju has lived her whole life without feeling that anything was worth protecting, but But now, she finally has a weakness. That weakness is her mixed-race daughter Della. Jaewon interviews Choi Jae-hyun according to the company's arrangement. As soon as they meet, she asks him whether he arranged her job. Choi Jae-hyun asks whether the arrangement made her unhappy. Jaewon admits that it did make her a little unhappy. Choi Jae-hyun says he does not move people around casually. He only gives opportunities to those with ability. Every political reporter wants to enter the core circle, and Choi Jae-hyun wants to help Jaewon achieve that wish. He takes out negative information about his rival as a meeting gift. This exclusive story has extremely powerful influence, but Jaewon does not want to accept it. She believes using it recklessly will bring a lot of trouble. Choi Jae-hyun says Jaewon is too stubborn, but also claims he will not force her to take the job. This exclusive story can be given to someone else to write. Jaewon stays firm and hands the material back. Choi Jae-hyun's expression changes instantly. He pretends to advise her that people with too much pride cannot survive long in this industry. Then he mocks her even harder. People with no real power but too much pride are the most pathetic. In this circle, seizing the opportunity is the real skill, just like his wife Yumi. When Jaewon asks what opportunity Yumi seized, Choi Jae-hyun proudly gives one answer. Yumi married him. Jaewon looks at this shameless man in front of her. She feels sick in her stomach, but she has to admit, in this cruel reality, his words actually make some sense. Jaewon returns to the company holding the dirt Choi Jae-hyun gave her. Her heart feels as heavy as stone. Then she suddenly notices a note hidden inside the file. It is a reminder from Choi Jae-hyun about how to write the report for him.
이 정도전 이런 말을 했어. 세상을 바꾸려거든. 힘부터 기르시오. 고작 당신 정도가 그 떼쓴다고 바뀔 세상이었으면은 난세라고 부르지도 않았습니다.
The note feels like a warning to her, telling her to behave and write the report properly. As the newspaper releases waves of positive reports, Choi Jae-hyun's popularity skyrockets. On the day the vote count is announced, the moment he appears with Yumi, they are surrounded by major media outlets and excited supporters. The final result is no surprise. Choi Jae-hyun wins by an overwhelming number of votes, and successfully becomes the mayor of Seoul. The cheers below the stage are deafening. Yumi walks onto the stage as the wife of the Seoul mayor, holding flowers in her hands, smiling brightly as she celebrates this glorious moment for her husband. Back at the newspaper office, the co-workers are amazed. Choi Jae-hyun actually defeated a veteran who had been re-elected 4 times. But Jaewon knows the truth. Behind Choi Jae-hyun's shiny image, everything is built on dirty tactics and black material. She says that if she really digs deeper, Choi Jae-hyun's dirt will definitely be filthier than anyone else's.
야, 농담이라도 그런 말 하지 마. 털긴 뭘 털어.
Before Jaewon can dig up anyone else's dirt, she will be fired first. Seeing Jaewon's fearless expression, her co-worker cannot help worrying about her. Choi Jae-hyun and a group of politicians rush to a restaurant to celebrate wildly. And as the wife of the Seoul mayor, Yumi naturally enjoys everyone's cheers and admiration. But because Hyunju has already exposed her fake identity, Yumi feels like a huge stone is pressing on her chest. No matter what happens, she cannot feel happy. And Choi Jae-hyun beside her seems to have known everything already. Hyunju goes to the mall and buys toys for her daughter, new clothes, and fairy tale books. She even orders a big cake, preparing to celebrate her beloved daughter's birthday. But strangely, after buying everything, she does not go home. Instead, she first goes to the villa where she used to live, as if she has arranged to meet someone there. That night, Hyunju's villa is completely empty. Only an unfinished glass of red wine is left on the table. But Hyunju has mysteriously disappeared. As the deadline to pay Hyunju 3 billion in compensation gets closer, Yumi can only desperately meet those wealthy women asking for favors. The moment one wealthy woman leaves, a cake box stuffed with cash appears beside Yumi.
뭐가 이렇게 쉬워?
To save time, Yumi does not even move from her seat. As soon as she sends one woman away, the next one arrives without a gap. Because of all the meetings and constant eating, Yumi overeats again and again, so she goes to a pharmacy to buy medicine for digestion. At that moment, a news report suddenly appears on the pharmacy television. Outside Hyunju's villa, a woman with the surname Lee has died by burning charcoal inside a car. The report says the dead woman chose suicide because she failed in the stock market, and because her marriage had fallen apart. Yumi quickly drives past Hyunju's villa in secret. She finds that the area is already sealed off, and surrounded by police. This time, when Yumi returns home, she does not take the stairs. Instead, she presses the elevator button she has avoided for so long. After getting home, she repeatedly checks the news online. Only one thought fills her mind. Hyunju was clearly still waiting for the 3 billion that could save her life. So how could she suddenly kill herself? It was clearly not suicide. On the other side, a co-worker tells Jaewon that Yale University yearbooks can be bought on American secondhand websites. This makes Jaewon continue digging into Yumi's so-called Yale diploma. Meanwhile, Choi Jae-hyun has just returned home, and he immediately blames Yumi for not attending important events with him these past few days. Yumi says that even if she goes, she only sits there like a flower, and missing a few events will not affect the outcome anyway. Choi Jae-hyun orders Yumi to quit her job as a college professor, and focus entirely on being his beautiful decoration. But Yumi does not disappoint him. With one brilliant speech, she instantly attracts countless fans. At the same time, the public's favor toward Choi Jae-hyun rises dramatically. Yumi thought Hyunju's death could finally cover the hole in her lies, but what she does not know is, she has already become a puppet in her husband's hands. And what is more terrifying than a lie, is the person who helps you complete it. She pretended to be a rich girl and became a politician's wife, but she had no idea her husband had known her fake identity all along. Not long ago, Yumi was still a university professor, but one day her colleague suddenly informed her that she had been suspended. The reason was that her husband Choi Jae-hyun was running for election, and he had someone fire her without even saying hello. Facing the suspension letter handed by her colleague, Yumi was unhappy but could only comply. to collect dirt on her husband. She first set her sights on Secretary Cho. She spent a lot of money renting an apartment for Secretary Cho near the company to win her over, seeing Secretary Cho's attitude soften after getting the benefit. Yumi took the opportunity to make a request, asking her to investigate Kim, the driver who had been fired by Choi Ji-hoon.
시키는 거 밖으로 안 샜으면 좋겠는데. 네.
Yumi then gave another instruction, to list all the people who had been inexplicably fired because of Choi Ji-hoon's election. Seeing that she was asked to investigate her own boss, Secretary Cho just froze and gave no response at first. When Yumi asked her in a questioning tone,
내가 조비서님 믿어도 돼요? 네. 고마워요.
After returning home, Choi Ji-hoon immediately assigned Yumi a task, telling her to personally deliver antiques to Officer Park tomorrow, and also open a social media account to post daily life and build popularity.
내일 저 홍보실에서 매뉴얼 줄 거야.
Yumi knew she could not stay passive any longer. The next day, she followed the address given by Secretary Cho, secretly went to the home of former driver Kim, who had been fired by Choi Ji-hoon.
솔직히 최 대표님 모셨을 거예요.
Driver Kim could not help but pour out his grievances to Yumi. As he spoke, he pointed to the scar on his forehead, saying it was caused by Choi Ji-hoon. Yumi knew that driver Kim had worked for Choi Ji-hoon the longest, and must know a lot of inside information. She directly asked driver Kim to help investigate Choi Ji-hoon's secrets behind the scenes, especially the list of people he had hurt. Driver Kim immediately refused upon hearing this. After all, he had signed a confidentiality agreement, and did not want to get into trouble. Seeing this, Yumi could only try to awaken his conscience.
서울시장 되면 안 되는 거잖아요. 기사님은 다 알고 계시죠?
Hearing this name, driver Kim was instantly stunned. On the other side, the drunk Choi Ji-hoon was complaining to his companion about how difficult voters are to please. They shout for lower housing prices while hoping their own houses will appreciate. His companion quickly reminded him that he was gaining momentum now, and the more this time, the more careful he had to be. So Choi Ji-hoon immediately arranged for Yumi to do charity everywhere to gain exposure. Then Yumi wore a volunteer uniform to clean up feces at a stray dog shelter, and then started to build an image of an advanced intellectual, widely promoting her calligraphy and paintings. At night, Yumi was busy collecting dirt on Choi Ji-hoon. Sure enough, the next day, as soon as Jaewon stepped into the newspaper office, she found everyone was frantically rushing to finish their manuscripts.
손보에 바쁘지?
판비질보가 선빵 쳤다. 최지훈이 사실혼 관계 여자가 있었고 아들도 있는데 애가 잡혀고 지금은 미국에 있대.
에?
야, 지금 쓰는 거 곧장 일부러 내고 니들도 저쪽 기사 물량으로 다 밀어내. 예, 알겠습니다. 강 기자.
예.
난 이한나 인터뷰 잡혔다. 날짜는 그때서 준대.
네, 알겠습니다.
The secretary drove Yumi back home. Yumi looked exhausted, saying she did not want to step into that house. Seeing this, the secretary silently handed her a USB drive, which contained the tax documents of Choi Ji-hoon that Yumi had asked her to find. After the scandal was exposed, Choi Ji-hoon was not affected at all. Instead, he went around canvassing votes like nothing had happened. His popularity even increased instead of decreasing. Later, Yumi found on her phone that Choi Ji-hoon had already arranged a public relations team, who quickly issued clarification statements, completely eliminating the public opinion. Jaewon was very angry when she learned that Choi Ji-hoon had been whitewashed, but her colleague told her that getting married twice is not a big scandal these days. Besides, Yumi and Choi Ji-hoon have no children, plus that illegitimate son has autism. The public actually understands Choi Ji-hoon's hardship of hiding the child in the United States. As for the ex-wife Lim Soo-yeon, she had long disappeared without a trace. Just then, her colleague suddenly found that another scandal had topped the hot search list. Jaewon picked up her phone and looked, only to see the screen clearly saying Choi Ji-hoon's wife exposed for ghostwriting thesis scandal. Choi Ji-hoon was scolding his subordinates for the scandal that happened during the day.
미국에 있는 거 다 틀리냐고 이 새끼들아. 아!
이한나 교수님 관련 기사가 떴습니다.
Immediately, everyone's phones vibrated at the same time. Negative reports about Choi Ji-hoon's wife Lee Yumi flooded in. It turned out that the mastermind behind this operation was Yumi herself. She did not hesitate to expose her own scandal. Just to bring Choi Ji-hoon down, she kept refreshing the page, watching that the top few spots on the hot search list were all her own scandals. She actually smiled. Choi Ji-hoon immediately asked the secretary to bring Yumi to him, but did not question the truth of the scandal.
놀랬지?
뭐가요?
앉아. 알렉스 화이트? 그 사람 찾았어.
It turned out that Choi Ji-hoon had already bribed the person who ghostwrote on his thesis, who was flying from the United States to clarify for Yumi.
논문 대필은 명백한 허위사실입니다. 후보님 흠집내려고 근거 없는 소문을 만들어낸 짜치기 기사죠. 제가 확인했습니다. 다행히 뉴욕이 곧 아침이라 알렉스 화이트가 3시간 후면 직접 인터뷰할 겁니다. 대필이 아니라 스터디 파트너였다고. 내일 아침 8시 뉴스에 나갑니다. 이상입니다.
수고했어.
He warned Yumi to lie low during this time, and that he would not spare her if she made any mistakes.
다 알고 있구나.
다시 유미로 살 자신 있어?
Choi Ji-hoon finally showed his cards. He had long known that Yumi was an imposter.
논문 브로커를 어떻게 이렇게 빨리 찾았을까?
이현주 만났어요?
It turned out that Hyunju had already contacted him and exposed Yumi's identity as a fake rich girl.
겁도 없이 먼저 연락했어 내한테.
He knew that once such a scandal about his wife was exposed, his political career would be completely ruined. So he chose to kill Hyunju himself and made the scene look like a suicide. Learning the truth, Yumi burst into tears instantly. That night, Yumi sat in the car all night. When she looked up, she even saw a hallucination of Hyunju.
내가 어릴 때 아나스타샤라고 불렀어. 그래서 내 두 번째 이름이. 그런데 사실은 안나 앤더슨이란 여자가 아나스타샤 행세를 하고 살았던 거래. 네가 내 앞에서 나처럼 살아본 기분은 어땠어? 가짜였어. 이현주를 죽였어.
내가
아니야?
Finally, she drove to Jaiwon's apartment building, smoking a cigarette and thinking hard, until she saw the light in Jaiwon's room turn on. She made up her mind and knocked on that door.
누구세요?
지원 선배, 저예요. 유미. 유미야.
The woman sets a luxury bag on fire. Then she throws it straight into the car where her husband is sitting. It turns out Choi Ji-hoon already knew Yumi was a fake heiress, and Yumi knew everything too. The so-called nephew at their wedding was never his nephew at all. He was Choi Ji-hoon's real son. Not only that, Yumi also knew that Choi Ji-hoon's former wife did not simply fall to her death by accident. Facing Yumi questions, Choi Ji-hoon gives her no answer. Instead, he tells her he helped remove Hyunju, the biggest threat in her life, so she should be grateful.
야, 니 도대체 뭐가 불만이야?
고작 불만이라고?
The moment Choi Ji-hoon hears this, he explodes with rage. He grabs Yumi by the throat and chokes her hard. But then he thinks of his political career, so he lets go and starts threatening Yumi.
그 말한 적 없었어. 니도 어차피 공범이야.
Just then, he hears someone enter the room. Choi Ji-hoon helps Yumi sit properly in the chair, then orders her to control her emotions, while he acts as if nothing happened, and greets the politicians with a smile.
아닙니다. 저희도 뭐 방금 놓쳐요. 여보, 인사 그냥. 아이고, 반갑습니다. 앉읍시다.
Soon, the footage of Yumi campaigning with Choi Ji-hoon takes over every major news headline. Her former co-workers from when she was a maid recognize her at a single glance. Even Hyunju's mother is shocked when she sees the newspaper. The timid maid from years ago has somehow become the glamorous wife of the mayor. Under Choi Ji-hoon pressure, Yumi has no choice but to stand in front of every major newspaper and clean up her husband's image. She packages his secret marriage and illegitimate son into a pitiful story people can sympathize with.
논란이 되는 현실을 견디는 게 힘듭니다. 고려하지 않습니다.
네. 수고하셨습니다.
However, Choi Ji-hoon soon discovers that behind his back, Yumi has taken at least 2.7 billion Korean won from those wealthy wives as favor fees.
이 한나이 머리 쓰니 건들면 터진다 이거야.
He cannot tolerate Yumi slipping out of his control and ruining his political career, so he immediately calls a psychiatric hospital in America.
끝나고 나면은 어디 조용한 데서 좀 쉬게 하고 싶은데.
He is preparing to lock Yumi in a psychiatric hospital too, just like what he once did to his so-called wife who died by accident. Meanwhile, Secretary Cho is harshly scolded by Choi Ji-hoon men because she knew the truth and never reported it. Then she is ordered to copy Yumi's phone and monitor her around the clock from now on. Secretary Cho drives Yumi to visit her mother, but her mother, who has dementia, no longer recognizes her own daughter. Ji-won stares at the USB drive Yumi gave her and thinks back to that early morning when Yumi came to her first and confessed every lie, how she pretended to be a student from a top university, how she acted like a rich heiress, and how she even stole Hyunju's identity. But as a journalist, Ji-won still speaks to her bluntly.
형편이 어렵다고 해서 다들 너처럼 살진 않아.
But this time Yumi is strangely calm. She is no longer afraid of having her identity exposed. Instead, she hands Ji-won the USB drive filled with scandals.
선배가 기사도 쓰고 검찰에도 다 알려주세요.
Inside, it is not only the evidence that Hyunju did not take her own life, but also the truth behind Choi Ji-hoon's former wife falling to her death, and even the full list of bribes Yumi herself accepted. Looking at this explosive evidence, Ji-won is completely stunned. Because of Yumi's enormous fame, the exhibitions held by those wealthy wives become more and more popular too. Everyone is finding ways to thank Yumi. One wealthy wife even says bluntly, their art museum does not even have one decent famous painting. Yet somehow 9,000 people visit in a single month, all because of Yumi's name. Then someone mentions displaying the work of a new painter named Kim Yong-hee at the museum. Everyone looks completely confused. They have never even heard of this person. Yumi calmly explains that she already rejected it twice, but the other side kept begging until she finally agreed. What they do not know is, Yumi only arranged it because she took the money. On the surface, she goes everywhere with her husband Choi Ji-hoon, helping him campaign and win public support. But behind the scenes, she secretly instructs Ji-won to to prepare the shocking scandal that can send both her and her husband to prison. As the time for the scandal to explode gets closer and closer, Yumi decides not to drag Secretary Cho into the investigation, so she fires Secretary Cho in person.
저 비서님 해고됐어요.
네?
After that, Yumi sits beside her husband, waiting for the final election results. Everyone around them is thrilled. Only Yumi watches coldly from the side, quietly waiting for the real show to begin. Just then, the hospital calls and tells her that her mother is suddenly in critical condition and may not have much time left. Almost in the same second, Choi Ji-hoon wins the election with the highest number of votes and excitedly stands up to celebrate. The irony is that Yumi has just received terrible news and has not even had time to process it, but her husband lifts her straight out of the chair. In the middle of everyone cheers, making her look completely out of place. Inside the newspaper office, everyone is watching the live stream of Choi Ji-hoon election victory. Only Ji-won sits at her desk, processing the evidence Yumi gave her, preparing to deliver a fatal blow to Choi Ji-hoon. Just then, a co-worker beside her receives a notice. They must wait at the airport tomorrow morning to interview Choi Ji-hoon and his wife before they leave the country. Turns out the moment Choi Ji-hoon wins the election, Yumi loses all value to him. He immediately uses the excuse of going to pick up his son in America to trick Yumi into going to America with him. Just then, Ji-won receives a text from Yumi, telling her she must seize the chance while they are going to America and expose every scandal about her and Choi Ji-hoon. Ji-won understands immediately and calls prosecutor Lee. When Yumi returns home, her mind is heavy with worry. All she can think about is her dying mother, but deep down she knows better than anyone. Choi Ji-hoon will never let her go back. Sure enough, when she carefully says she wants to go home and see her mother.
엄마가 영국이죠.
미친.
근데 알잖아. 지금 곤란한 거. 강원도에 하나요양병원에 사람 좀 보내라.
Early the next morning, the airport is packed with reporters. Choi Ji-hoon brings Yumi through the flashing cameras and heads into the airport. Yumi keeps a blank face the entire time. Not far away, Ji-won hides in the crowd, watching Yumi leave with her own eyes. Her heart is filled with pity. On the plane, Yumi suddenly receives the news that her mother has passed away.
교수님, 70세 여성 윤홍주 씨, 오늘 아침 6시 54분에 사망하셨습니다.
In the end, Yumi never got to see her mother one last time. She instantly breaks down and cries, and Choi Ji-hoon sitting beside her, watches everything coldly. The moment they arrive in America, the first thing Choi Ji-hoon does is use the excuse of renting a car to trick Yumi into handing over her passport. Yumi watches helplessly as her passport is never used for the rental at all. Instead, Choi Ji-hoon casually stuffs it into his own pocket. Then he drives Yumi straight toward the middle of nowhere. On the road, Yumi receives a text from Ji-won saying the exposure has been blocked. Someone high up is stopping it. At the same time, as they are about to arrive at the psychiatric hospital, Choi Ji-hoon finally reveals his true purpose and openly tells her the truth about sending her away to rest.
생각을 좀 해봤는데 좀 쉬는 게 좋을 것 같아.
At that moment, Yumi notices Choi Ji-hoon is not wearing a seatbelt. Suddenly, a crazy thought appears in her mind. Just as Choi Ji-hoon smugly watches Yumi's reaction, a deer suddenly runs out in front of the car. Yumi struggles out of the wrecked car, but Choi Ji-hoon is trapped tightly in the driver's seat, unable to move at all. Without saying a word, Yumi crawls back into the car and snatches back the passport hidden in his pocket. She looks at the deer that saved her, as if even heaven is helping her. Then Yumi raises her phone, desperately searching for a signal.
야! 야, 일로 와봐라! 좀 잡아봐라, 이거! 어? 미안나!
Finally, she receives a text from Ji-won. The prosecution route will not work. She has to find another way. Looking at the screen, Yumi realizes in despair that in the face of absolute power, ordinary people do not even have the right to expose the truth.
야, 야나! 뭐하노, 씨! 야, 일로 와봐!
사람은 혼자 보는 일기장에도 거짓말했습니다. 하지만 진실은 간단하고 거짓은 복잡합니다.
Meanwhile, Ji-won does something extreme to draw attention. She climbs out of the high window of the prosecutor's office building and uses the threat of jumping to force everyone to pay attention to the scandal in her hands. Inside the car, Choi Ji-hoon is still screaming and cursing, but Yumi suddenly touches the lighter in her bag. It was left from the cigarette she took from Secretary Cho before. An idea begins to form in her mind.
그렇게 견디면 기회는 반드시 옵니다. 항상 그랬어요. 마음먹은 건 다 해요.
Soon the scandals of Choi Ji-hoon and Anna explode across the entire internet. Their personal secretary Cho is also surrounded by reporters. Immediately after that, the news of Choi Ji-hoon's death in a car accident in America appears on every major headline. And along with it comes the shocking scandal that Yumi stole Anna's identity and forged her education. The students who once admired her, and everyone who once knew her, are all left speechless. Those wealthy wives stare at the news in total disbelief. Choi Ji-hoon's funeral is painfully empty. Only the child who barely knew him and his old father are there. Even more ironic, Choi Ji-hoon, who once had power, money, and influence while he was alive, does not have a single visitor come to mourn him after his death. Meanwhile, Ji-won becomes famous overnight for exposing the scandal. A TV station offers her a high-paying job, and she finally moves out of the basement into a bright luxury apartment filled with sunlight. Her co-workers all envy her move, saying she has jumped 3 salary levels at once. But unexpectedly, Ji-won turns down the TV station offer and chooses to stay where she is. Looking at the wallet Yumi gave her, Ji-won keeps thinking about Yumi on the way home.
잘 지내니?
Turns out, after that car accident, Yumi traveled across America on foot and escaped all the way to Canada.
Hey, Lee! What happened to your car? Why did you walk all this way? Could have bumped into a bear.
The battery's dead. I couldn't start the engine.
She disguises herself as a Chinese girl, hiding her name and identity in a remote village, living in an ordinary little wooden cabin, and staying far away from the world. All glory eventually fades into nothing. The upper-class life built on lies was nothing more than a fragile dream. She burned through her chains with one fire, but she also exiled herself into a wilderness where no one could find her.